story from
Yeah,
Jonathan
yeah.
Gullible? That'd be wonderful.
Well, there's another one called the toll tax. Jonathan's coming into the town finally, called Carumpo, and he's comes across this guy that's shuffling along on his knees, and Jonathan seems, well, he doesn't seem to be crippled or anything. Well, why are you on your knees? He says, oh, well, you haven't heard about it. This is the toll tax I'm trying to avoid. What is this? Oh, yes, the officials decided that it was unfair that some people should be taller than others. You know, it gives them advantages in their employment and with who they marry and all sorts of things. So we have passed this toll tax, taxing people according to their height. And you can reduce your toll tax by walking around your knees. Some people will even go to the extreme of crawling, you know, if they really need to lower their tax. And Jonathan says, well, is this for everyone? Oh, no, you can. There are a few people who stand erect, and of course politicians always prefer to be left excluded from this tax because people do vote tall, you know. And that was a play on the Economist magazine that came out with this report one time saying that the best predictor of every election is the tallest. Yeah, that's right. Maybe George Bush wasn't taller than John Kerry, but there are occasional exceptions.
Yes, occasional exceptions.
Yeah.
So that's the so now you've got, what'd you say, 40 of these?
There's 40 episodes, and a lot of them are derived from like Bastiat, David Friedman, Milton Friedman.
Right.
Many of the von Mises, Hayek, Rothbard, many of the libertarian or free market Austrian economists have their ideas sort of twisted and turned in a way that is fun and enjoyable. The one that's from Bastiat has to do with the Stulta and Puera image of how goods coming into the city are not allowed. They have all these boulders and obstacles preventing things coming in from the city, but the going out is perfectly okay. And Bastiat poked fun at this, saying, would it make sense then for us to put boulders on the other side of the city, on the other side of the road, just to make it fair?
Yeah, the more goods there's a myth that, you know, about economics that you want to restrict the flow of goods coming in, and that's going to somehow save jobs in America, which is not true. Explain why that isn't true.
Yeah, well, it takes away. The idea is that if we put up trade barriers, if another country puts up trade barriers against us, it punishes our sellers and their buyers.
Right.
And so then, in that country, they say, well, you must retaliate. You must also put up trade barriers against the products from their country, which means that you punish completely innocent people. Right. You make it more expensive for our sellers and their buyers, or the reverse, their sellers and our buyers. You punish completely innocent people for the harmful effects of politicians standing in people's way and costing them money, jobs, services, and the rest.
Also, if someone can make something cheaper in a country and better quality, why wouldn't I want to buy it? I mean, how does it hurt me to buy something good? If the people in this country can't make a car that doesn't break down every 10 minutes, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to buy a Toyota. I need to get to work.
Exactly, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that helps my economy here because I can get to work, you know, and my car isn't breaking down every 10 minutes, and that's better for me.
A good example of how this worked out in practice, unilaterally, the British in the early 1800s declared unilateral free trade. They didn't expect that the French and the Spanish would lower their trade barriers before they would. They said, we're repealing the Corn Laws. We're going to lower our trade barriers. And they, as a consequence, had one of the most astounding levels of growth in their history. And other countries then, to keep up, had to kind of reply in kind. So it was a tremendous advantage to the British to do it, yeah.
Also, if other countries can make things cheaper, that's fine. You can make another industry here of something we can only make here because we have better technology, hopefully, anywhere in the world.
Bastiat's, go ahead, no, sorry.
But anyway, it's just, we constantly hear about this, you know, we have to restrict trade, and, you know, it's bad for the jobs, you know, for them. They're dumping foreign steel in our cheap foreign steel. It's steel. I mean, if you don't like it, don't buy it. How does that hurt me as a consumer? If I can get things cheaper.
This is
it's
another
good for me.
story that Friedrich Bastiat made fun of during his petition of the candle makers and coat makers. And this is another tale in the book, a chapter of the book, where Jonathan Gullible is asking this woman, this woman asked him to sign a petition. And she says, well, fine, okay, what's this for? Oh, this is to ban the sun. To ban the sun? I don't understand. Why would you want to do that? Well, you see, the candle makers and coat makers say that the free and easy availability of this outside source of light and heat make less demand for the jobs of candle makers and coat makers. And clearly you are in favor of jobs for candle makers and coat makers, are you not? So you must ban the sun so that these candle makers and coat makers will have more employment. People will need their candles and their coats because they'll be cold and they'll be dark, and well, how can you do this? Well, we'll put a stiff tax on windows, and people will then wall up their windows in order. Well, that's the same effect of a tariff. A tariff is to essentially deprive your people of easy and free access to these
goods.
other things.
And if you're poor, you need to buy things for less.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's what they have, for instance, in Walmart. There's a good example. When they've actually voted out Walmart in some places because Walmart didn't make a very good propaganda effort when they're really helping the people in that area. If Walmart moves in, everyone can get everything they need cheaper. Poor people can now get the same amount of goods and services and food for $200 instead of $400. That's good. It helps the poor. Now, if there was a government program that gave all those poor people $200, no one would be complaining. But when Walmart does it, for some reason, people are complaining. And that's sad. I was saddened to hear that Walmart was voted out, at least temporarily. But Walmart needs to make better arguments. They have the money. They can do this. But this is an example of you teaching people about economics so you don't have these economic fallacies. And that's one of the reasons I left the Democratic Party, is because I agree, yes, people should, you need to help the poor, but how are you going to do that? And if you try to help them without any knowledge of economics, you can end up making the situation worse.
Yeah.
Like in my building where I live, there are lots of laws protecting renters. And then there are people in the building that are wrecking the building. I won't go into how they're doing it, but they're wrecking the building, but the owner cannot evict them because of all the rules protecting renters. So there's people that are destroying the building, destroying the quality of life in the building, but the people that own the building can't evict them, which is, again, a law trying to protect poor people. And then also when we have rent control, we end up having mostly rich people living in rent-controlled apartments and people subleasing them for more money. And that doesn't work either. But when my neighborhood, when new apartment buildings opened up, the rent suddenly went down everywhere, and everyone had big signs in front of the building saying, move in free, first month rent free, $400 a month. Well, at all.
That's right. So often unintended consequences, although they're intended by the special interest groups that do expect to be winners as a result of these policies. And the biggest winner all the time are the government officials and the bureaucracies that grow bigger staff, bigger budget in order to administer the program and all of the consequent problems that come with it. And the chronic loser is usually the taxpayers and the consumers who wind up with lost service, poor service, and expensive service.
And expensive slum housing you have to pay a lot of money for. Because the good intentions, you have to have some knowledge of economics in order to make those good intentions work to get where we want to be as a society, which is why I like what you were doing. If we could just teach people, as kids, if we had this book in every school all across the country. What about just sending it out? Sending out, well, you need a lot of money to do that. Sending out copies to free. Well, if you had CDs of it, and kids could listen to it in the classroom, you just had a list of teachers and you sent out a CD to, started sending out CDs to teachers.
Well, they can access it on our line, jonathangullible.com. They can find the script that's been used as skits in schools. We've